Hello. I'm going to be talking about my district, which is Coventry Local Schools, and I'm a sixth grade intervention specialist. So after reading the different the laws and what FERPA kind of is, so I was thinking about on how these topics matter because it can restrict what the students can access on their Chromebooks, because at my district each student is allowed to have their own Chromebook. Like, we use those a lot of the time in class, but it's all the laws are also there to protect their privacy as to what they are looking up and stuff. Because I know last year in our district we had this thing called Go Guardian, where we were allowed to pretty much the teachers were allowed to click on the Go Guardian app, and we could see pretty much what the students were looking at on their Chromebooks, and go back and all that, and see past history and stuff. But I know there's a new law that my principal talked about that came out this year, or in Ohio, I think, and we aren't allowed to do that anymore, and it's a lot more strict, so we don't have Go Guardian anymore. But that's kind of the very first thing that I thought of when we were reading, when I was learning about FERPA and the other laws. So when I was doing my 2 interviews, I got to talk to my one colleague who's also the intervention specialist for 6th grade. She's lovely. And then I talked to one of my 8th grade volleyball players, because I really wanted to see what a student thought about internet safety and all of that kind of stuff. But they kind of talked about very similar things when I was talking to them. My colleague pretty much was talking about a lot about cyberbullying and the harm it can do to students. She's been teaching for, I think, over 10 plus years, and she feels that Coventry does a really good job at handling cyberbullying. She said that a lot of the time the issues are not necessarily on the Chromebooks, or cyberbullying's not really happening as much at school, because Coventry has or at the middle school at least, a no phone, zero phone tolerance policy. If we see a phone, we're supposed to take it and give it to the office, and that's that. No phones are allowed. So she said a lot of the issues were pretty much caused from the students being at home and having to pretty much keep the evidence and have to show that to a teacher when they come back to school. She said it was a lot harder having to go pretty much at home, it being at home, and then compared to being at school, because it's if it's not a person, another student at the same school, it's even harder to kind of figure out the cyberbullying with someone who doesn't even go to that school. So she said a lot of that is a lot more difficult with cyberbullying, but Coventry is really strict when it comes to stuff like that. And the administrative, I feel we have a really great administrative team at the school, and they do not mess around with that. And when I was also talking to one of my 8th grade volleyball players, she also talked about cyberbullying. That was kind of the main focus, when I was talking to both of them. And however, she has seen it used firsthand, with other people, and she says she has reported it and stuff. The tricky thing that she said that she felt that was hard was that a lot of the issues with cyberbullying and internet safety kind of stuff, a lot of it happens on the app Snapchat. And if you don't know, Snapchat it's a very popular app for the younger generation, and once you snap someone, you can open it and then it disappears forever. You can only see it that one time. Or if you do take a screenshot, it lets the other person know that they take a screenshot. So it's really hard to collect evidence and to show like if something is happening at home, like to keep it and then like go to school and show them like this is what this person is saying about me. So I thought that was like really interesting that like there was a specific app that like a lot of the students use. Like they don't use like Instagram, or I do remember at one point earlier, it was at the beginning of the school year, there was a threat on the school with like some like one of the students like gonna shoot the school, and it did not happen. Just to clarify, that did not happen. But that happened on Snapchat, and it was directed at like a certain student. And I remember because it was during volleyball season, and my players were coming up to me, and we had to go report it to the administrative team. And later on I found out that it was really hard for them to figure out like that, having to pull up the information from Snapchat, because Snapchat's also like very big into like keeping like the privacy and not like really like going back into the history and stuff. But that's kind of like what I like learned, and like what like I talked to my colleagues and my old volleyball player about. It was really interesting to hear like both of their perspectives and how they are very similar and yet like on different like levels when it comes to like the knowledge of internet safety. But yeah,